Right, welcome back to Football Daily. Today we need to talk about the transfer merry-go-round. Erling Haaland might well have finally joined Manchester City, so we can write that one out of the ticket, but it hasn't stopped people printing, talking, tweeting, Instagramming, TikToking, is that even a word, about transfers and the Premier League this week. So today I'm going to look at each Premier League club's biggest rumour. Now I asked you guys to get involved with this on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, @JoeTomlinson, I usually put out a tweet asking for your help because quite frankly, I'm a bit clueless. So as you can see, I've got 5 categories in front of me. I've got nailed on, likely, keep your eye on it, unlikely, and no chance. I'm going to go through all 20 Premier League clubs, one big rumour from each of them, and assign it to a category. Let's have it. Alright, we'll start with Arsenal then, and it's got to be Gabriel Jesus, hasn't it? Of course, 25 years old now, under contract for one more year until 2023, but the arrival of not only Erling Haaland, but also Julian Alvarez, to me signals he's going to leave. I think he's had his shot in that 9 role. It has worked, but clearly Pep feels like he wants something different, and I think Gabriel Jesus would be an exceptional signing for Arsenal. Fabrizio Romano, of course, confirmed that he had spoken to Gabby's agent, and the agent had said they were in negotiations. There's reports coming out of Brazil that a €50 million fee has been agreed between the two clubs. I think that is great value. I saw that stat going around on Twitter. Oh, he's underperformed expected goals by about 20 at Man City. No, he hasn't. He has underperformed expected goals across his Manchester City career, but let's not forget he was developing into the player he currently is now. Since the beginning of last season, it's like 16 goals against an XG of 16.9. So a 0.9 underperformance. Arsenal are getting a hell of a player here, and for me, this one now seems nailed on, doesn't it? I genuinely think this is going to happen. And it's a bloody good signing. Aston Villa, it's got to be Philippe Coutinho, doesn't it? We may as well stick this one in the nailed on category as well, because this one got the Fabrizio Romano seal of here we go yesterday, didn't it? And for such a... It's a kind of cut price fee, isn't it? Obviously, originally they were negotiating at about €40 million. It seems they've got it for about €20 million. It's okay. He's done the job he was supposed to do when he arrived under Steven Gerrard, which was create and score. He's got 4 goals, he's got 3 assists, he's the 3rd highest by expected assists in the entire squad across the course of the season. He's even working harder off the ball. The 7th highest pressures in the squad. I think Coutinho, €20 million, fine transfer. It's not going to rip up any trees because he is 29, but you know, it's a good name for Villa to have on the books, isn't it? At Brentford, the rumours persist around Christian Eriksen, and I think this is a difficult one. I actually think this is now bordering on unlikely. I think he's performed so well since he's got to Brentford that it's almost harmed his chances of staying there long term. I think there's going to be bigger suitors for Christian Eriksen in the market. There's rumoured to be 3 other Premier League clubs interested in Newcastle, Tottenham and Manchester United, and I just don't think Brentford could match those wages. So for me, this one's unlikely, despite the fact he's lost one of his last 8 games for Brentford. He's putting up huge expected assist numbers, still an elite creator. I think his ceiling might be a little bit higher than the Bees. Sorry, Brentford fans. At Brighton, we've got Julian Enciso, the Paraguayan 18-year-old, and this one's looking more and more likely, isn't it? His agent was, of course, at the Amex Arena to watch Brighton spank Manchester United 4-0. Oh! Of course, they nearly signed him back in January, didn't they? But that deal collapsed at about €7 million, which I think would have been a record for his side back in Paraguay. But it looks like it's kind of been reinvigorated, rejuvenated. Paraguayan journalists were saying that this is going to be a done deal. The reason his agent was at the stadium is to get this deal locked in. So I think it's looking pretty likely. At Burnley, rumours are dry because I think people don't know if they're going to be a Premier League side or a Championship side next season. If they are a Premier League side, this rumour persists about Christian Benteke. I just think there's no chance it happens, to be honest with you. Obviously, we're linked with him in January. He turned down the opportunity, and then they ended up signing Wout Weghorst, according to The Athletic. He's very good aerially. I think 7 of his last 14 Premier League goals have come with his head, but it just feels like people are going, big man, Burnley. I actually don't think they're particularly well suited, and I would be extremely surprised to see it happen. Let's talk about Declan Rice to Chelsea then, as the next big transfer rumour. It's not going to happen. Stick this alongside Big Ben in the no chance category. We all saw the reports this week, didn't we, of West Ham offering an 8-year contract worth 200 grand a week. Shock that got rejected. But in all seriousness, nobody's going to stump up the £150 million West Ham want, in my opinion. I think it's extremely unlikely he leaves the club this summer. Next summer, I think his value could be at its peak, given he will have just finished a World Cup. If he performs well at the World Cup and has another good season with West Ham, his value is going to be right up there with 2 more years left on his contract. Of course, it's out in 2024, but it has an optional extra year that West Ham are extremely likely to trigger. I think next summer will probably be the year we see Declan Rice move, because he's just going to get priced out. Nobody's going to pay £120 million for Declan Rice, I'm telling you. Let's talk about Wambasaka to Crystal Palace then. Of course, he joined from Crystal Palace to Manchester United for about 50 million quid. And it's all gone wrong, really, hasn't it? His career has majorly stalled. I think this is probably one to keep your eye on, because I think Erik ten Hag is going to want to assess that squad pretty closely. And whether or not he decides he wants Wambasaka is going to be the pivotal factor in his Manchester United future. There are other clubs reportedly interested. I saw the links to Roma. I saw the links to Atletico Madrid, which would be a bizarre one. But I think Crystal Palace would be a really good fit. Obviously, Joel Ward is ageing out. He's got an experience of playing at Crystal Palace. I think the fans would welcome him back with open arms. And he needs some coaching. He needs some confidence. He needs to get back to where he was pre-joining Manchester United. Whether this is on loan or a permanent, I think it's one to keep your eye on. James Tarkowski to Everton is the next rumour we're going to be looking at. Of course, he's out of contract this summer, and there's plenty of interest in what I believe is a very good Premier League level central defender. At Burnley, people say that all he does is stick his body on the line, throw his face in front of the ball. People seem to forget how progressive he was at Brentford. I think he's a good passer. He'd be fine for a middle table to lower middle table club. And that's exactly where he's being linked. So I think Everton is definitely one to keep your eye on. I also think West Ham might be interested. But somewhere around Everton's range is correct, and they need centre-halves, don't they? Brennan Aronson is up next. I just think this is now very unlikely. I would have said, I think I did say around January, that this is a likely move. Maybe even put it in the nailed on category, because of course Leeds were so close to getting that deal done. That deal didn't get done. In my opinion, as I said on last week's show, they are going to get relegated, and there's no way he's going to be playing Championship football next season. Obviously, Jesse March has worked with him in the past, so that will be a helping hand if they can stay in the league. If they can stay in the league, never say never. I would probably put it in keep your eye on if they were staying in the league, but I think they're going down. So I'm sticking him in unlikely. At Leicester, there's a bit of a dearth of rumours, I'm not going to lie. I had to settle for Charles de Ketelaere, kind of forward that plays for Club Bruges, and even then, I'm pretty unconvinced. Now, I'm not unconvinced by his quality necessarily, because he's had a very good season for Bruges, hasn't he, in the Belgian Pro League. I think he scored 14 league goals, and he operates brilliantly in and around the box, particularly when he moves out to those wide areas. But for Leicester, do you know what? Leicester are doing these interesting pieces of business, aren't they? So, all power to him. I don't know enough about the lad. I'm going to be putting him in, keep your eye on it, because quite frankly, I haven't watched enough Belgian Pro League this season to have a real understanding of how he plays and what level he can play at. I've watched the highlights packages, and he does look quite exciting. And this is how Leicester have done business over the last couple of years. But if there's any Belgian Pro League fans that want to educate me, be my guest in the comments. At Liverpool, we're looking at Tchouaméni, aren't we? Who is going to command a big fee at 22, 70 million euros, but is definitely worth it. Some people might be sat at home thinking, how does he fit into the midfield? You know, Thiago's there, Fabinho's there. Does he want to operate as a 6? He's not just a 6. People have wrongly tarred him with the brush of only being a 6 because he's putting up, 6, 7 tackles and interceptions per 90. He's an extremely progressive ball carrier, gets shots off from good areas. It's just how he's been used this season, which proves that he could do it. I mean, a midfield three of Tchouaméni, Fabinho and Thiago makes me want to vomit in my mouth. It's so good. I do think Liverpool are going to have major competition from Real Madrid and Chelsea, who might be able to offer better financial packages because Liverpool might not want to rip up that wage structure that is so well renowned. So I'll put it in, keep your eye on, but it feels like somewhere in between keep your eye on and likely at this stage. Manchester City, obviously Erling Haaland just got done, so I was kind of scratching around for rumours. Matheus Nunes' name won't go away though, will it? Obviously the Sporting central midfielder. I also saw Fabrizio Romano tweeting during the week that Man City have been keeping an eye on him. They've been sending scouts to the games. And Manchester City do need a Fernandinho replacement. It's confirmed he's leaving the club, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be chasing a central midfielder. At the moment, he's kind of playing on the left-hand side of that double pivot at Sporting, isn't he? He's pretty progressive on the ball. He's still only 23. And I'm sure Pep Guardiola, as he's proved by signing Erling Haaland, is looking for the future of Manchester City. He would be an exciting player, and when I've watched him play in Europe, very solid. So again, I'm going to put him in, keep your eye on. All right, let's talk about Frenkie De Jong joining Manchester United then. Obviously, it made the newspapers last night after Gerardo Rumour reported it, saying that it's 95% done. The British press, not quite so confident. The Telegraph had an exclusive today saying that Manchester United's hierarchy had sat down with Erik ten Hag just 12 hours or something like that after he won the Eredivisie League title with his coaching staff and planned out their summer recruitment, and that Frenkie De Jong is pretty high. We're clearly talking about one of the most talented central midfielders in Europe, and he obviously has the experience of playing with Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag knows how to get the best out of him. He's had a bit of a rough ride at Barcelona at times. He's obviously been whistled off a couple of times. I think he's only completed 90 minutes since Xavi took over. However, he loves Barcelona. Does he really want to step away from a Champions League side to play in the Europa League at Manchester United in a side that are all over the place? I'm unconvinced. He's under contract to 2026. I would love him as a Manchester United fan. He's an unbelievable dribbler of the ball, super progressive, but this feels like it's going to be a struggle for United to get done. I did see yesterday on Twitter everybody saying, well, he's not a defensive midfielder. That's not what Manchester United need. Man United need more than one midfielder this summer. Pogba's leaving, Matic is leaving, Lingard's leaving, Mata's leaving. The midfield was already a chasm before those four left. And he has proved in the past that he can play in the defensive midfield role, hasn't he? Sergio Busquets operates there for Barcelona. He's never being dropped, so he has had to operate in a slightly different role. We saw him quite progressive under Ronald Koeman, getting in around the box, scoring and assisting goals. We've also seen him slightly more reserved under Xavi. We've seen him used as a centre-back at times under Erik ten Hag at Ajax. This is a guy who can do it all. He'd be a great Swiss Army knife midfielder for Manchester United to own, but I think it's going to be difficult for them to own him. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in unlikely. If it happens, I'll be buzzing, but I just can't see it. All right, Newcastle's rumour then, and it broke today, didn't it? Luke Edwards in the Telegraph talking about how they are going to be bidding in the summer for Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton. Luke Edwards is extremely reliable, and I think this one is a good fit. I think it's a good fit because they still need a striker. Let's have it right. Chris Wood hasn't really worked, and that move was very short term. Half of it was basically to cuck Burnley, wasn't it? Callum Wilson's extremely injury prone. I think they need a striker that's going to be there for the long term. And that could be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Last season, before his injury problems, 16 league goals. Across the course of his career, before this season, he'd only missed 18 games through injury. This season, he's missed 16 alone. So it's not a particularly worrying trend injury-wise. And I think he would have an impact at Newcastle. This would be a good signing if they can get him for the right fee. If Everton stay up, which I now believe they're going to, it might cost a little bit more though. Southampton then, 20-year-old Gavin Bazunu, of course the Manchester City loanee who's currently on loan at Portsmouth, so he knows the South Coast region. That might actually be a help for Southampton. And the reports that are coming out of Ireland recently are suggesting that he is going to push for a move this summer. It's unlikely he's going to be able to get any game time ahead of Ederson. Whether that's another loan or a permanent remains to be seen. Could be down to the South Coast because we know Southampton are desperate for goalkeepers at this stage. All four of their current goalkeepers are out of contract in the summer. I think Bazunu would be a great fit. I think give him a go. Let's put that in likely. Tottenham are being linked to Pau Torres. Of course, The Athletic heavily reporting that Antonio Conte wants a number of signings, to be honest with you, but most notably a left-sided centre-back, which is exactly what Pau Torres is. It's hard to find left-footed central defenders on the open market. Pau Torres, of course, has a €55 million release clause at Villarreal. He's under contract till 2025. He's been there since he was 6. So this guy's been a servant to the Yellow Submarine. Extremely good progressive passer. I still have my question marks over his defensive capabilities just because he plays in an Unai Emery system that its main focus is defence orientated. Can he play in a slightly more progressive side? But I would back Antonio Conte to coach him into a monster. I just don't think Tottenham are going to be the side he joins. I think he's going to have big name suitors across the continent. I would be extremely surprised. I think it's unlikely Tottenham signed Pau Torres for 55-60 million euros. Let's talk about West Ham, who are surely going to be in the market for a striker, and they have been heavily linked in the Daily Mail this week with Eddie Nketiah, who's having a remarkable time of it at Arsenal at the moment, isn't he? I just don't see it, though. I think if I was Eddie Nketiah, I would be looking at a club where I am nailed on first name on the team sheet striker, and I don't think that would happen with Mikel Antonio there, who's taken up 80+% of West Ham's minutes this season. If he's going anywhere, it needs to be a club who need a striker. I would prefer to see Eddie Nketiah at Brighton, to be honest with you, who clearly need a number 9, than I would at West Ham. I do believe, though, there's a chance he signs that new deal at Arsenal. His form's been so good recently. Mikel Arteta keeps on bigging him up. I think he might sign the new deal. If he doesn't, I'd rather see him at Brighton. So I'm just saying West Ham's unlikely. Wolves being linked to Ryan Kent. No chance. This is just not going to happen, is it? I mean, he's out of contract in 2023, but nah, not for me. And that's not to say Ryan Kent is a bad player, because he's still got 10 goal involvements in the league this season. He's made a Europa League final as well, hasn't he? I'm just not sure why he'd leave Rangers. Bit of a crowd favourite there. Yeah, I don't know. Personal opinion, this one. I just don't see it in a million years. I'm going to mix it up this week as well, because Norwich and Watford are already down and Fulham and Bournemouth are already up. So I'm actually going to talk about Fulham and Bournemouth being Premier League sides. And Fulham being heavily linked to Morgan Gibbs-White. Morgan Gibbs-White. I think this one's extremely unlikely. He's out of contract in the summer, but I think Wolves should be honestly doing everything they can to lock this guy down. And if they don't manage to lock him down, I'd be surprised to see him go to Fulham. Sheffield United are still in that playoff hunt. If they go up, I think there's more chance he stays at Sheffield United than jumps ship and goes to Fulham. However, again, a little bit like Nketiah, I've got a sneaking suspicion he might sign a new deal. Overall, I just don't see him going to Fulham. It'd be a fun move, but it's unlikely. Bournemouth then heavily linked to Dean Henderson. No chance. That's not happening. Bournemouth might well be looking for a goalkeeper, and Dean Henderson does have experience in sort of relegation battles, doesn't he? He was excellent for Sheffield United when he put up that. I think it was saving more than 5 expected goals better than he should have for Sheffield United when he was ranking sort of 3rd in the league for numbers. But he's since signed a new contract to Manchester United until 2025 on really large wages. I don't think Bournemouth are going to be able to front them. I think if he does leave, it will be to a higher level than Bournemouth as well. I think teams like Newcastle, as I've spoken about in the past, will be interested in him. For me, there's no chance there. Alright, so those were my rankings of the biggest rumours from each club that I could find. I want to hear your guys' comments on them down below. What other rumours should I have talked about? And I also want to hear some suggestions as to what I should make going forward in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. It does help us out. Hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.